It's all good. All right, let's see. My guest today is Mr. Jono Barnes. He is a favorite native son of the city of New Orleans. He is a hilarious guy, and he's a content creator. Makes a lot of comedy videos on social media. You might have seen him around. But for those of you that may be out there hearing for him the first time, Jono, what's one word to describe yourself right off the bat?
Goofy.
Goofy.
Well, I mean, some would say goofy, some might even say corny.
I
Energetic. I think people kind of like or see a lot of my fanatic energy in the content that I do in themselves, which is why I've been able to kind of garner the audience I have. So I would
Right.
just say energetic, good and bad, energetic.
Right. And that is the whole theme of Jono's creations online. He has the Jono Barnes Show, a podcast that you can watch if you are subscribing to all of his channels on all the platforms and everything. And basically are mostly based in sports content. You're a huge sports fan. You are a huge Saints fan and grew up kind of in the shadow of the Pelicans, doing some time as a ball boy there. So,
Mm.
when did you first start making these videos and stuff online?
I started in the 2021 season, so great timing, right? Right when we started going on our playoff drought. That's when I say, hey, let me start making content. Uh, and as you said, sports dominates my content, but I didn't start off saying I'm going to do just Saints or Pelicans or sports content. Is all of my platforms are myself, Jono Barnes, which you can follow me on. So I said, whatever I have interest in is what I'm going to make content in. Now, not surprisingly, my Saints content is what resonated with the city of New Orleans, right? Because we're all passionate fans, and they could probably
Right.
see my passion in the team with the Saints and with the Pelicans. So hey, easy mix. I say, well, I love the Saints, I love the Pelicans, I love sports down here. Let me just keep doing even more of that content since it seems to be resonating with the audience. And in 2021, we were in the middle of the pandemic. I always thought for a long time I could have some success as a content creator, but never just got that will to actually do it. But in the middle of the pandemic, I'm like, man, we're all at home. John, if you're not going to do it now, you're never going to do it. I didn't want to go to sleep tossing and turning every night saying, well, what would I have accomplished if I actually did turn on the
Yeah.
camera? So in 2021, I finally bought a camera. I was just going to start doing vlogs and stuff. And I said, let me have
Yeah.
some fun with the Saints. We can use a laugh for the Saints, good or bad. And it's taken off to where it has now. And I'm very grateful for the city of New Orleans. Truly, I am extremely grateful for how the city and even some of the state has adapted me, or adapted my content and embraced it so much.
I've seen a lot of your skits on Reels and TikToks and things like that. And now you got the podcast going. And one thing I'll say that you do very, very well is that you're not just rah-rah Saints. You get the very like exclusive details about it's those collective things that Saints fans have in common, certain things about ritualistic things or maybe the way we grieve a loss all at the same time. And we may all be different people, but there are some similarities about us in this collective group known as the Who That Nation. And I think that you just nailed down very perfectly. How do you, what kind of things are you looking for when you try to do a reflection of the overall fan base?
Well, I would say for my podcast, like that's usually 100% authentic Jono Barnes. We blend in sports entertainment. I'm a wrestling fan, so I always want to do something different, right? Like there's a
Hmm.
thousand great Saints podcasts out there. I don't want to just have a X's and O's shows. I want to blend in some entertainment along with actual
Yeah.
sports analysis. But my podcast is where you can probably get my actual genuine analysis on the team for the Saints, the Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, etc. I do my reaction videos every Sunday where I watch the game and I just record myself, and that's
Hmm.
100% raw. That's not me putting on an act. That's how I react to the game. Sometimes
Right.
I get bad takes when I look back on it, but that's just the fun of being a fan. Now, with the skits, it's me taking my fanaticism and just amplifying it times 10, right? So
Hmm.
it's genuine stuff that you see in those skits, but it's also obviously me just kind of amplifying it to put on a comedic or entertaining element to it. But real life situations, I kid you not, real life situations have been born from some of these skits. And I just say, okay, that's actually a good idea. Let's take this now and record it and amplify it by 10 to
Yeah.
entertain people. Now, I will say this though, everybody, usually the most favorite of my skits, quote unquote, is the one with my wife, where she's
Yeah.
always being annoyed at my
That's
shenanigans.
the
And I just
one I
want to tell
relate to the
people,
most.
those aren't skits. Those right there are documentaries. She records it because she wants to give it to our marriage therapist. She says I have a problem. I don't know about that. So, but all the other stuff is usually just skits and good fun, but it's actually real. Like you said, Jesse, I think that's why people resonate to it because it's authentic. I take it up a notch, but it's authentic. And people say, yeah, you know what? That's why it's more than a game down here.
I think that was one of the ones I've seen recently. It was like you and your wife in the airport, and it's like all the different kinds of fans. You have like the angry fan and the excited fan and the loud fan and
Shout
stuff.
out to the Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport. Yep,
Right.
it's coming
Look,
record.
man, like your what's your wife's name?
Clarissa.
Larissa, like you do a great job in those skits, but I don't know, man. She might steal some of your shine because the facial expressions that she was making on those videos, I was like, man, I've been there before.
She truly is the MVP, and I think a lot of the female audience can see that themselves in her. The ones who maybe aren't as passionate as the men. But however, there's also some females who have come up to me and say they see themselves in
Uh-huh.
me, and their husbands are the
Uh-huh.
ones who are playing the role of Clarissa, where they're like, calm down, babe. So I love it though. Like people see themselves in those content bits that we do, and it just
Yeah.
shows how the fun, the silliness, and the entertainment that comes with being a fan. My wife is the real MVP though. She has helped me because she's not someone who likes to be in front of the camera. She's definitely not trying to be a public figure. I never even formally asked her one day to, hey, start doing these. It just kind of, I gave her the phone one day. I said, hey, let's record this. And she's never complained. She's always down for whatever idea I have. And obviously, those bits have become the most popular of all of the things that I've done. So I cannot thank her and give her enough praise. Just for one, for living with me, because again,
Yeah.
it's real. Like that's how I am doing games. But two, to come along this journey with me.
Well, I'm glad that she's in it with you because I think those are my favorite ones, and it takes teamwork to make a dream work. Am I right?
You already know. Yep.
All right. All right. Well, so now that everyone is up to speed on who you are and what you do out there, we got to talk about this game coming up because it is Falcons week. I know first we kind of like we lost the game, might have lost some momentum. We had those two big games and people kind of feeling down, but then you look at the schedule and it's like, oh shoot, it's Atlanta. So what we got to do, Jono?
We got to win. What do we got to do, Justin? We got to win. Look, one thing about the Saints and Falcons game, the most underrated rivalry nationally in the NFL is that you could throw out the records, you could throw out the injury. It always comes down to some shenanigans or you just never know. You never know with those games. And we're banged up. The Falcons are banged up. So in my opinion, that means no excuses. Like we got to find a way to win this game. It's in Atlanta. It's even a little sweeter to me when we go to Atlanta and beat them in front of their silly fan base. I'm going to be very PG friendly on this one. I
I
do
was just
think that
reminiscing earlier this morning about one of the times when we went over to Atlanta and Drew Brees hit him with that spin move.
there's so many times I know the spin move is, but you can always say, hey, remember that time we went to Atlanta? You got to like really think about it because there's so many times we went to Atlanta and
Yeah.
embarrassed them in front of their
Yep.
fans. I would say though, from a analysis standpoint, I think knowing that, okay, we're not caught off guard this week, right? Like losing McCoy last week was
Oh, yeah.
critical to lose an all-pro center in the middle of a game against one of the best D-lines in the NFL. But now,
Right.
Clint Kubiak, you have a week to prepare for this. You know you have to have a contingency plan in place for Atlanta. So I think Kubiak just has to, I mean, we gave him all the love and accolades in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, when you have some adversity come in, are you
Yeah.
really that guy that we hyped you up to be in the first 2 weeks? Can you, when you have adversity, create a game plan to score enough points? I trust in our defense to stifle Kirk Cousins in that offense, but can our offense come up with a game plan that can put up at least, I think 21 points honestly might be enough to win this type of game, given the team's injuries right now. So if Clint can do
Yeah.
that, we have a good shot to win. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see Clint Kubiak with some adversity.
Yeah. McCoy was a tough loss, 6 to 8 weeks. But he might bounce back stronger than ever. I know you got some special insight on Mr. McCoy there because you guys spent some time together. Am I right?
Absolutely. Erik McCoy came to my house this past March to do interview conversation with me. And I want to say, Jesse, I am pretty sure he was the first NFL player to ever come. You've seen NFL players go on fans, this podcast
Yeah.
and whatnot. It's usually doing Zoom via Zoom, right? This was actually
Right.
McCoy. And it was McCoy suggestion.
He
He
was
said, I will
at your
come to your
house.
house and do it. And that's historic, man. That's historic. I think we're going into a new wave of media where fans like me who aren't traditional media can still have access to players that we couldn't ever dreamed of just as much as 10 years ago. So I think you're going to start seeing more players go to fans, podcasts, and streams to have
Mm.
conversations, maybe even to their house. And I'm honored and humble. And I just really hope when it becomes a thing, which is great, I hope that it does become a thing all throughout the United States. I want people to recognize, though, that that started in New Orleans, Louisiana, and that started with Erik McCoy. And that's why it's more than a game down here. I was so grateful for him to take time out his busy offseason to come to me. You know, I'm not like, I ain't got like 100,000 followers or whatever. Like, there wasn't no benefit to him besides he just enjoyed my content. He saw the authenticness of my fandom and say, yeah, I'll come kick it with you and we'll talk about how 2023 went and how 2024 is hopefully going to go. And I am forever, forever grateful. That's why the injury really, it hit hard, Jesse, because that's the first time, you know, you get so immune to it when you see football injuries because of
Yeah.
how brutal the sport is. But when you're
Yeah.
somebody that you now have a personal relationship with,
Yeah.
it hits
You're
home.
like,
And
that's
I
my
was very, and
guy.
not even from an on the field standpoint of how critical he is, but just from a
Yeah.
personal standpoint. But one thing about McCoy, man, that man has it on his mind. He is one of the hardest working players. I'm not just saying that because he can, like, he is legitimately one of the hardest working players. He's having surgery today, I believe. Like, he said, I'm not wasting no time. I'm trying to get healthy to get back out there with my boys. He takes his role as team captain seriously, and I know he's going to come back stronger and better than ever, and he's going to let the world know why, Jesse, is more than a game.
That's right. Now, look, Jono's being modest. He's saying his catchphrase, but it's an abbreviated version of it. There's a little bit of an expletive in that we can't say here in this space, but you know, this beep more than the game is how he says it over there on his channel, and you know, he's got the merch and everything. So, uh, that is a catchphrase I've seen going around the city, and man, just to be able to do what you're doing right now, just start from scratch is pretty cool. I gotta say that. Well, let
I
me ask you a
appreciate
little
it.
bit more about the season. So, you mentioned Clint Kubiak and what he's been able to do so far through 3 games, and there's a little bit of a stumble in this last game. Just you know, as far as player availability and what the Eagles were able to do against the Saints. But look, even though the offense was very prolific in the first 2 weeks, uh, we can't quit talking about the defense. They've been absolutely stellar through 3 games. So, in your opinion, what does the defense have to do to be able to sustain this level of play? And can the Kubiak offense continue to match or improve or add to what we've seen so far?
I We all have been tough on Dennis Allen the past 3 seasons for good record. I mean, it's a win-loss business. And
Okay.
one thing I will always give Dennis Allen is this, though. That man can coach a defense. That man is elite at coaching defense. I
No
never
lies
have to
detected.
worry, I feel, about our defense because I know Allen's going to have them ready to play. That's why last Sunday hurt, because you come to me 10 times out of 10 and say, Jono, the game is going to come down to you just need the Saints defense to stop a team from scoring a touchdown. I'm like, sign me up. Sign me
Yeah.
up. So I was like befuddled that we actually gave up a touchdown with the game on the line.
Yeah.
I think our defense is going to, I mean, even when we have injuries, Dennis is always able to curate a game plan to be effective as a defense to give whatever opposing offense we're playing some issues. The Atlanta offense has not impressed me at all the first 3 weeks. Honestly, they
Okay.
should be 0-3. Philadelphia went full
Okay.
stupid on Monday Night Football and gave them a win. So
Okay.
now they're one and
All
two.
right.
But Kirk Cousins has not impressed me. He's a statue in the pocket. I feel like we can definitely stifle that offense. I'm not worrying about the defense. Again, it comes down to can Kubiak get creative enough, hide the issues of the offensive line? Because besides
Yeah.
McCoy, I'm sure Ruiz is going to be probably on the injury report banged up. Kamara looked like he got banged up at
Mm,
the end. We're not a team with a lot of depth, Jesse. We're a very top
that's
heavy
right.
team. So any injury we
Right.
have is probably going to be a bit detrimental to us. So this is where the spotlight is really on Clint Kubiak now to see how does he adapt when the in there and it's always going to happen. You're going to have adversity as a football team. You're
Right.
never going to go through a whole season where every player is healthy and everybody's ready to go on Sundays. So I think it's going to be a lot of, well, in my opinion, if I was making the game plan, thankfully I'm
Yeah.
not, I think he's going to have to get creative with finding ways to mask not having McCoy and having, obviously, they're probably going to send a lot of the pressure Atlanta's D line on
Hmm.
our center and on Penny and on a banged up Ruiz. So can you get the ball out quickly to guys like Olave and Shaheed and have them make some plays? Can we still run the ball effectively even without McCoy? It's going to be a real test. Like, this is going to be a good gauge to see how we are probably going. I mean, McCoy is out for 2 months, so how are we going to look going forward? Spotlight's on you, Clint. Spotlight
Yeah.
is on you.
And let me ask you, what do you see with Derek Carr out there? Because last season, coming in as a big money free agent, he took a lot of criticism, but he finished the season very well, and he had a good 2 weeks to start off, and he had a fairly strong week three. There was a couple of spots here and there, but what are you seeing with Derek Carr, and do you think that he's a guy that can take the Saints team to another level?
I actually do. I actually do. I mean, it's funny.
Hmm.
If our defense gets a stop on 3rd and 16 and then on 4th down, the conversations just would be looking a lot different. We're like, whoa, Derek Carr led us to a game-winning touchdown. He's showing how
Yeah.
different he is this year. But it goes to show how crazy this game can be in the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
I went on your station right before week one, Jesse, and I actually took some heat on social media because your reporter asked me, oh, well, can Derek Carr win back over the city of New Orleans? And I was
Uh-huh.
like, of course. I say winning cures all. I say I feel like
Yeah.
he's embracing the city a lot more this season. And if he
Yeah.
wins, absolutely. And everybody on Twitter, oh, nah, John, what are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
We're done with Derek Carr, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, all right,
Uh-huh.
y'all. Like winning cures all. And what happened after the first 2 weeks, Jesse? Everybody was
Black
on
and
fire.
gold Super Bowl.
Frenchman, you can go down Frenchman Bourbon Canal without seeing a Derek Carr jersey. I say,
I
duh,
know.
like we like winning. Like,
Yeah.
sue us, we like winning. I don't know how that was such a hot take to some people when I went on your station and said that. So I felt very verified when we won 2-0 and Derek Carr was absolutely putting up some great numbers. And he absolutely continued to. Actually, this is a good test for Derek Carr too. I keep saying Kubiak, but if Derek Carr can lead us to some wins while, McCoy is out, Kamara's banged up, we'll see what happens with the rest of the season as far as injuries. Then absolutely, I feel like
Absolutely.
fans were so jaded after last season. I thought some fans were taking it a little too far with their hate to Derek Carr. I mean, to me, he is what he is. He's always been a solid mid-level quarterback, which is fine. That's how we're paying him. That's who he's been. And if he can give us those type of results, maybe even better than solid, if he can give us good
Hmm.
results while embracing the city like he did this offseason, he had the
Yeah.
concert with the Mario Davis. He drew some team parties together. He tried. I'm like, guys, he's actually
Right.
trying. Like, this is all we asked
Right.
for. We can't be that hateful for him. Then absolutely he can continue to win over the city, but absolutely elevate us now. When you say elevate, take us to the next level. I don't know, you're talking like Super Bowl. That would be a lot would have to go right. A lot would
Yeah.
have to go right for that to happen. But I do think he could get us to the playoffs. Absolutely. I absolutely believe he can get us to the playoffs.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear. And look, I know we're all hyped up with the Saints talk when in the middle of the season, we were down a little step because we lost, but it is Falcons week, so naturally we are back up. But I do kind of want to segue a little bit.
I
We
know.
got to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans a little bit.
Mhm, mhm.
Because we are expecting big things, and you have a special relationship with that franchise because as a little guy out there, you're a ball boy. Kind of share with me that experience and what kind of things did you see out there?
Yeah, I was a ball boy for the New Orleans. I'm going to show my age for the New Orleans Hornets and the New Orleans
Yeah,
Pelicans. I want to say I think it was 13 years or 14. So it was a long time. I was there longer
long
than a lot
time.
of the players. They should make the locker room name after our great equipment manager, Big Shot. But
The
then
Jono Tunnel.
a corridor, yeah, something like that. The Jono Barnes. It was the time of my life because I am a diehard Pelicans fan as well. So as a college kid, to get a call saying, "Hey, do you want to be a ball boy for your favorite team?" Basically, I got season tickets for 14 years. I got to sit on the court. Now, when I go to games, I could
That's
be on the front
amazing.
row, and I'd be like, "Man, this is a downgrade." I'm used to sitting like on the court next to the bench. Uh, Amazing stories. Some I would take to my grave. There's like this trust
Uh-huh.
that you got to go
Uh-huh.
on with the players. Like they don't see you as fans; they see you as colleagues, as friends, as
Right.
confidants. So some of the things I got to experience was great. The best that I can say is that I never had any negative reaction or interaction with any player whatsoever. Every player that I got to interact with, and I've got to interact with any player you can think of from the Pelicans and Hornets history
Uh-huh.
to the opposing fans. So any all-star player, all-time great, trust me, up until 2020, I got to interact with them. Well, Patrick Beverly was one time, but that's Patrick Beverly. Um, it was great. I was there for the Chris Paul era. I was there for the Anthony
Yeah.
Davis era. I was there for the Zion Williamson era. The best thing about it is you become genuine friends with these guys, like sharing
Yeah.
cell phone numbers and going out with them. I got to live that NBA lifestyle some nights where you're in the club and you're like, whoa, so this is how these guys, this is the benefits of being an NBA player, right? The time of my life, the absolute time of my life. I always dreamed of being in that locker room had we won a championship. Unfortunately, that never happened on my timeline.
Mm.
But it was just a great, great time. I can't say enough great things about that organization. It's probably why I'm a little bit more lenient on them with my criticisms on social media because of my history with them. But shout out to Big Shot, man. If you know, you know. Big Shot is the longest tenured employee with the organization. He was there from day one, from the Charlotte Hornets
Hmm.
days to now. So he
That's
gave me
right.
the opportunity of a lifetime, and I loved it, loved it, loved it. Some days I still miss it. I'm glad doing my content thing now, but some days, for those big Pelicans games, I'm like, man, I wish I could be on that court right now. Just
Uh-huh.
in the locker room, like absorbing that energy. Actually, probably should hire me now as an alumnus to go in there and say, y'all, it's more than a game, and I'm doing the PG version.
Well, we do appreciate your special insight.
And
Uh,
Jesse, I am very, very
yeah,
excited about them now being a lot more accessible to the audience because that is huge, man. For the audience
that's
to
right. I
now
was going
be
to
able
ask
to
you about that. What do
watch the
you?
games, that is going to be a game changer and so severely needed. Like for the Saints, of course, all you gotta do is turn on Fox every Sunday and it's there. You can watch the game. So now that we can do that for the
Right.
Pelicans, it's going to be so huge to the growth of
Yeah.
our fan base. We have an exciting team. I know the playoffs wasn't exciting, but we do have an exciting team. I'm so excited to see what the team does this season and to watch the growth of the team now that it's accessible on Fox 8
Right.
and the Golf Course
Yeah, I
Network.
mean, think about that. Like, we're going to have, I think, like 8 to 10 games on Fox 8 Main, but the creation of a whole channel, the Gulf Coast Sports Network, and I think, they're going to add some other programming down the road, but right now we're talking about Pelicans.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
should they should have the Jono Barnes show on there. Put a
oh,
word in.
I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do. But hey, man. But yeah, we'll have the whole Gulf Coast Sports Network for you to watch the Pelicans and the whole new complexion of this roster now. There was a big trade, and DeJounte Murray is in New Orleans. He's been hyping people up and all that. I know they have questions at center. They look a little small, a little thin there. And a few things to iron out. But what do you think about this product? Some people are really kind of high, especially they were high after that big trade went through, and then they've kind of been quiet um, on the talent acquisition part since then. But a lot of people think that, maybe they could actually play as a roster as is right now going into the season. What do you think?
It'll be interesting, Jesse, because when we traded for Murray, I was excited. I was like, finally, we're doing something exciting in the offseason. And then I was even more excited when I was like, oh, we kept Brandon Ingram. So now we can maybe get
Hmm.
something for him because as constructed, I'm having a hard time myself seeing how Brandon Ingram, DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, CJ
Yeah,
McCollum, if he's still going to be the starter, we got to find out because I mean, there's
we
so,
got to find
one
out.
ball, all of these ball dominant players who excel when they have, so many shots a game. I
You know
think,
how we are going to find out how that works, though, Jono?
how's that?
By watching the Gulf Coast Sports Network
Oh, what a professional. What a
and
professional.
and following that Fox 8 coverage.
You already know. I will be watching every single game on Fox 8 and the Golf Course Network. I cannot wait. They are this more than the game certified. Jesse, I do think we can probably get by a few months in the regular season with Brandon Ingram and all them still in the
Hmm.
lineup.
Hmm.
However, because the regular season sometimes teams, I don't say cruise control, but it's not as intense as when it gets to playoff time. But long term, I have my doubts about if that roster configuration can work out. I do
Yeah,
think we're a
okay.
playoff team no matter what, even if we sit still and say we're
No
just
matter
going to ride
what.
out this
You
last
heard
year
it
with
here
Brandon.
first by Jono Barnes, no matter
Yeah,
what.
no, absolutely. I think we have. I mean, I think we have enough talent now. Is this roster? I look at it and say, oh, it's a championship roster. No, I don't. But a playoff
Sure.
absolutely. I love Brandon Ingram. I do think that for us to probably excel, we probably will need to possibly trade him. But I'm not getting paid, thankfully, to make those decisions. It's going to be very intriguing. I am excited to see what we do. I'm excited to see what the starting lineup is. Like CJ, Trey, who comes off the bench. It's a lot. It's a good problem to have. But I will say this. Uh, I like donuts, I like pizza, and I like ice cream. I don't know if I like all of them together. So I like Zion.
Understandable.
I
Understandable.
like Ingram. I like DeJounte. I don't know if I like all of them together. We'll see. It's going to be intriguing, but it's exciting. That's the main thing. The Pelicans are actually giving us something to be excited for. And as a fan, sometimes that's all I ask for. Just give me something to hope for. Give me something to be excited
Right.
about. And that trade has given me something to be excited for when the season starts in a few weeks.
Hey, look, when you got a whole lump of talent and almost so much in some areas that you don't even know what to do with, but you can manage around, try to figure out something later, I'll take that any day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Jono Barnes, I thank you for joining us today on our Fox 8 digital desk. It was a lovely conversation, always a great time. Oh, this is the fighting words out there.
You got to
Well,
end Falcons hate week the right way.
that's right, baby. Everybody get out, get excited. Time to bounce back this week, and we'll be seeing you on those interwebs. Tell us where we can go to find your content, Jono.
If you just search Jono Barnes across all platforms, I will show up. Or if you search this more than a game, I will show up. And one last thing, Jesse, my catchphrase, if you want to call it that, is this is more than a game. And I'm just so it was a thing, Jesse, that it's not like I sat down at a marketing table and say, what catchphrase or something can I do to, garner the audience's attention? It came out organically in the skit I was doing about the Pelicans, ironically. People would think it would be a Saints skit. It was a Pelican skit I was doing for when we won that play-in game to go to the playoffs in 2022. And I say it's more than a DAMN game. And fans were like, yeah, you're right, Jono, it is, it is. Then my next skit that I did, I say this more than a game. And fans just resonated towards, and that's why it's special to me. Like, yeah, I'm the avatar behind it. Yeah, it's become my motto catchphrase, but it's a lifestyle. I think New Orleans and Louisiana loves it so much, and they're screaming it from the rooftops. It's because it's authentic. Like, it's more than a game down here to us, and so I'm so appreciative to New Orleans and the state of Louisiana for embracing it. I think it's going to continue to grow, and I am very much excited. And if you want to continue to follow that journey with me, Jono Barnes across all platforms.
All right, you heard the man. Look him up and join in on the culture. Thank you for joining us today, Jono.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Fox. Y'all watch those Pelicans games now.